this clip, this is from Case Study QB. Both of the clips we're using today is from him. He clipped his full segment. This is Chris Hayes, and the framing he's trying to make about it. I don't want to tip it off. Let me play it, and then when he says it, then I'll chime in. So let's play the clip, Nick.
Now is the time when every Republican in Washington starts bullying Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy is currently the Republican leader, so he is all but guaranteed to become Speaker of the House come January when the new Congress is sworn in. Mostly because anyone else capable of doing the job is, well, smart enough not to want it at this point. As Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas told HuffPost, quote, "There's no other alternative." Today, the House had their preliminary secret leadership vote, the House Republican Caucus, and in that, McCarthy seemed to dispatch his only real rival, the far-right election denier Andy Biggs of Arizona. In that preliminary speakership vote, this is just within the Republican caucus, 31 Republicans voted against McCarthy. That means he got 188 votes. He will need 218 to wield the Speaker's gavel, which is a vote of the full House of Representatives. And he now has to work tirelessly to get his party unified behind him. Now, this naturally gives the fringes of the Republican Party, the far-right Freedom Caucus, the unofficial MAGA Troll Caucus, an extraordinary amount of power. They can break McCarthy's speakership.
Do you remember a clip? Yeah. Do you remember any segment where he described the squad's power in this way? I don't remember. They have an extraordinary amount of power. I don't remember any conversation or any segment.
I didn't see this before. This is brilliant. He literally. I'll let continue, but he's explaining the strategy that we had when we was forcing AOC and the progressives to force a vote for Medicare for all. And when we came up with this idea, people was like, "This is far out there, right? There's no way this will work." Meanwhile, everyone knew this is standard political operating procedure. And we also know the Republican Party is the party that is designed to win, and the Democratic Party, especially the progressive Democrats, are the party that is designed to lose. So you notice that the Republicans, the one who will need to win, they engage in every single strategy they need to shift over to win on to the right. Meanwhile, progressive Democrats, quote unquote progressive Democrats, very emphasis on the quote, they are forced to fight with one hand behind their back. And that is their job. Their job is to be inefficient.
Self-imposed, by the way. You see how it's a dance? You see how one party's leading and one party's not.
Remember?
It's a dance. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, remember what I said about Pramila Jayapal? Pramila Jayapal's job is to be a loser. You guys understand? That's her job. When has Pramila Jayapal got anything correct? Pramila Jayapal wrote a Medicare for All bill and then refused to do any strategy to implement it. Pramila Jayapal was the person in the Bernie Sanders campaign that was telling him, do not go too hard on the Democratic Party rivals that you have. Do not attack Joe Biden. It was Chuck Rocha and it was Pramila Jayapal inside Bernie's ear telling him that. Meanwhile, Breonna Joy Gray was on the inside telling him that he got to go after people. Guess which one he listened to? Pramila Jayapal. So Pramila Jayapal's job is to be the loser, to demasculate and depower the left. That's why she rejected. But let's continue the video. I didn't see this. I like reacting to your statements. So go ahead, CJ.
Let's do it.
Speakership. They are going to maximize their leverage.
Let me rewind because that word was cut off, and I want that to be said again. One more time.
In the Republican caucus, 31 Republicans voted against McCarthy. That means he got 188 votes. He will need 218 to wield the.
I forgot to say this. In the first word, he said bullying. You notice the framing that he's trying to present for exerting your power as an elected official. It's called bullying if what you're exerting and the policy you have is not in lockstep with the mainstream. That's why it's called bullying. Go ahead.
Anything that's not civility politics, right? If you're not using civility politics, which is used to handicap people, is the biggest enemy and crux of the working class. And you see how they always push that because they know what they're doing. And if anyone, even power, decides to go out of order, like step over Mitch McConnell, step over Nancy Pelosi. There's a proper order of things. You gotta wait your turn. You gotta wait till it's your turn. If anyone does that, bullying. That's a great point, CJ. Let's go ahead.
The Speaker's gavel, which is a vote of the full House of Representatives. And he now has to work tirelessly to get his party unified behind him. Now, this naturally gives the fringes of the Republican Party, the far-right Freedom Caucus, the unofficial MAGA Troll Caucus, an extraordinary amount of power. They can make or break McCarthy's speakership. They are going to maximize their leverage, and they are going to make him sweat a lot. And here's the thing. Whether they're doing it explicitly or implicitly, they are really wielding that power on behalf of Donald Trump to essentially force Kevin McCarthy's hand to do whatever the ex-president wants, to make him the shadow speaker. Trump is apparently already demanding McCarthy's complete fealty, at least according to his close advisor, Jason Miller.
What I would like to see, Steve, I do think that Kevin McCarthy needs to, if he wants to have a chance of being speaker, he's be much more declarative that he is supporting President Trump. I thought what Elise Stefanik did yesterday was very smart. And fact of the matter is, it's going to be a MAGA-centric caucus.
It's probably true. Now, even if McCarthy does cave and get behind Trump for 2024, that MAGA caucus is still going to make his life a living nightmare. That's not going to end it. One of the concessions that some of those folks, those far-right Republicans are demanding.
I'll be real quick. I don't want to cut out too long. But imagine if someone was saying about Pelosi. Imagine in an alternate universe where they forced the vote, and then Chris Hayes is warning, Nancy Pelosi, you can't do this. Even if you allow a vote on healthcare, AOC and the squad, they're never going to let up. They're never going to stop the Democratic Party from pursuing progressive goals. They're going to keep the pressure on. You see how he's saying that like it's a bad thing? Nigga, if I had a politician representing my interest, you want them to be a thorn on the side of leadership. Go back like 10 seconds, CJ, just so you can hear him say that point again.
Absolutely.
As if it's a bad thing.
If he wants to have a chance of being speaker, he's be much more declarative that he is supporting President Trump. I thought what Elise Stefanik did yesterday was very smart. And fact of the matter is, it's going to be a MAGA-centric caucus.
It's probably true. Now, even if McCarthy does cave and get behind Trump for 2024, that MAGA caucus is still going to make his life a living nightmare. That's not going to end it. One of the concessions that some of those
folks to Nancy Pelosi. Once again, he brings that up like it's a bad thing. Nancy Pelosi's life should have been hell the second the first fraud member was elected. The fact that it's not how you know it was a fraud, but let's continue the video. I just want to emphasize that point.
Those folks, those far-right Republicans are demanding, on condition of supporting McCarthy for speaker, would be the return of a procedural rule, sort of obscure, but it's known as the motion to vacate the chair. And the thing about that is it effectively allows any member to submit a vote of essentially no confidence in the speaker. Way back in July of 2015, then Republican Congressman Mark Meadows filed a motion to vacate against then Republican Speaker John Boehner, which effectively forced Boehner into retirement. Boehner was like, screw this, I'm done. I'm going to go retire with my red wine and cigarettes. See you guys later. The same threat also loomed over Boehner's replacement, Republican Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. But unlike Boehner and McCarthy, it was obvious to anyone watching that Ryan did not actually want the job. So after 2 years, he was like, okay, I'm out too. I'm going back to Wisconsin. Now, it is
I can stop it here because he is the next segment he's talking also, but curious to the framing of this, but he is just pointing out what the squad should be doing. But you notice how they're framing the segment. If you don't think this is to shield the squad also, because I'm going to prove it to you with this next segment, because he has, I think it's actually the same show. He has Pramila Jayapal, your favorite person. He has her on talking about the same thing. And shout out Case Study QB, both of these clips discuss the dynamics of governing a political caucus and the GOP's difficult task of governing their narrow caucus. And this is the quote, "The Freedom Caucus has always been a caucus of no. They have been a caucus willing to explode everything." You mean you see how she describes using leverage? Why do we think she's ever going to force the vote if she describes it that way, Nick? She's never going to force the vote, ever. You hear how she describes it?
Wow. I didn't see this before. I was looking at the comments. I can now see what the professional loser I have to say. I'm glad I mentioned that before. Her job is to lose Pramila Jayapal, her job is to give bad advice to her progressive peers so they can lose. It's Pramila Jayapal that does not want the squad to vote as a bloc. It's Pramila Jayapal that whipped the progressive movement so they don't criticize Biden too hard during the election. She is a plant. Once again, big shout out to case study. I see you in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, he out here?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'll just put his comment up. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah. Love case. All right, so let's listen to this. I know you're gonna be stopping on this shit. Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
Congresswoman, let me start with you. I wanted to get your perspective because you occupy an interesting position here. You're the chair of the Progressive Caucus. So you have a caucus inside the Democratic caucus, and the speaker had a very narrow House margin. And there's back and forth, right? Your members want certain things. Leadership might want other things. You kind of go back and forth. How do you see?
You see how he's at misleading them as if there was a back and forth. No, nigga, it was 100-0 Pelosi. What the fuck? What? This is a complete misrepresentation. You guys were nice. You guys did it right way. You played this way and got your wins and losses. That's not what happened. Go ahead, nigga.
And CJ, how many boomers are watching this show that do not have a 100% complete historical recount of what happened during the Nancy Pelosi vote? This is how history is written by the winners. How many people are watching this segment that could outline everything that happened during Force the Vote? Most of them probably don't know if it exists. So when they watch this show, they leave it with the impression that the progressive had at least a little fight in them. Now do you guys see why study after study show that you are literally more informed if you don't watch? Like if you don't watch this segment, you are literally more informed about Force the Vote than if you did watch the segment.
Right. Because it's better to don't have a way to go than be given the wrong directions to go. It's better. I don't know where to go than to be given the wrong directions to go.
Yeah, I'll explain this. I'll give you guys an example of how that study, the practical application of that study. It's a well-known study. This study been quoted so many times. You're better off not watching corporate news. My brother is not into politics at all, but my brother has great political instincts. Like we all born from rebellious heart, right? He don't know anything about politics, don't know anything about Pete Buttigieg. I remember this was when I was working for the Bernie campaign. We were watching the debates, knew nothing about Pete Buttigieg, had no oppo research on the guy, but my brother doesn't watch any corporate media, right? So he heard Pete Buttigieg speak, and I remember this so vividly because it was so funny. My brother don't know none of these people. He heard Pete Buttigieg speak like, who the fuck is this guy? Fuck this dude. The fuck? My brother, to this day, still hates Pete Buttigieg because he's like, this dude is obviously full of shit. Obviously. But if you watch MSNBC every day and you program, what do they say about Pete Buttigieg? Oh, he's the next leader of the Democratic Party. He's so well.
This is what turned people off to politics because you see that just feeling your brother got without knowing anything. Yeah. But somebody is telling him something else. This is why people be like, oh, fuck this. You're going against my instinct, so I can't even fuck with this at all. This is why 100 million people don't vote.
Yeah, and we go back to the video, but the basis of that study is when you're inundated with this propaganda every day, you wake up every morning, you watch Morning Joe, that will dull your instincts. You know that instinct I just explained with my brother? You start believing. Well, Joe said Pete Buttigieg is a good speaker. So you hear me like, yeah, he probably makes sense. Like people, the corporate media steals your critical thinking skills. And I just give you guys one example, but I see this all the time. The people who fall for Hillary Clinton's bullshit, the people who fall for the liberal propaganda are the people who subscribe to the New York Times and the MSNBC, not the workers. They see that shit like, what the fuck is this stupid shit? It's the media head, but I think I made the point. Let's go. Let's continue the video.
The professional managerial class, the petty bourgeoisie. Let's listen, and then you'll see my camera go off. I'm going to close this window. You see the sunlight is now on this side, so I'm going to close the window while the video plays.
That dynamic playing out on the other side of the aisle as you look at this incoming possible majority of 2, 3, 4 votes somewhere in there.
Well, Chris, it's good to see you. I always rejected the idea that there was any comparison between the Progressive Caucus and the Freedom Caucus because the Progressive Caucus has always been a caucus of yes. We have been focused on how do we govern, but push the limits of what's possible to the very
They are the caucus of yes. They say yes to NATO. They say yes to freaking Israel. They say yes to the parliamentarian. They do say yes to everything. They say no to nothing. She's spot on. I heard that in my ear, and I was like, I gotta stop it right
I'm
here.
so glad he came back because I was thinking like, yo, I was like, I don't know when TJ gonna come back and stop it, but I'm literally. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's continue.
Very end. How do we make sure we land the plane, but get as much as we can for working people and folks of color and poor people across this country that just need.
She checked all the checking marks. She said poor people of color, working people. Okay, got it. Thank you. No connection to actually anything happening because she knows nothing has been done legislatively to help any of those people that she's talking about. She knows that. So let's continue.
Just need a leg up. The Freedom Caucus has always been a caucus of no. They have been a caucus willing to just explode everything. They don't really have a desire to govern. You saw it with Donald Trump. You saw it with, the Freedom Caucus in the last couple of rounds of Republican leadership, as you mentioned, with John Boehner, with Paul Ryan. And I'm not sure that there is any dynamic that changes that in this Congress. In fact, I think it makes it even worse because the Republican Party as a party of values has imploded on itself. It is now a cult
party of values. Can you believe she has the audacity to say the Democratic Party has a problem imploding the party of values? As what's the progressive values? Isn't a progressive values not to vote for war, not to vote to send money to Ukraine, not to vote to send money for NATO? Like, what is she? Go ahead. What is she talking about, man?
Forced to vote was literally in the DSA play handbook. DSA, forced to vote is not a radical Marxist political maneuver. Forced to vote is a very basic, even capitalist strategy. Like, we're not asking them to engage in intense Marxist political maneuvers. We're asking them to do basic politics. What was outlined in the DSA handbook of forcing to vote on healthcare. So she says that we are the party of values. What value? You guys sold out
BDS,
the little bit of values that you guys had.
Yeah.
But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so let's continue the video. She just goes on and says just garbage after garbage, but let's listen to the garbage.
Cult party of Donald Trump, who has already lost the 2020 election. He lost a whole bunch of elections across the country. And
they're trying so hard to tie losses to Donald Trump that he doesn't have. Like, he won in 2020, he won his election. He lost to Joe Biden, and he's going to win in 2024, in my opinion, either him or DeSantis. Either way, conservative wins. Actually, if the Democrats win too, but
why as progressives? And I mean, we all know this is like that's what they do. But if you're on the left, what you see the team sport shit? Ha ha, loser Donald. Donald, you lost. It's all about winning elections. What about policy? What's the result of you defeating Donald? Pramila, she doesn't bring this up. It's all about blue wins. The blue team wins. The red team lose. They train people who watch MSNBC or any corporate outlet to view politics as a team sport. That's what you're doing here. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, but team sports is what allows you to overlook what your team is doing. That's bad. That's the problem with team sports. And let's continue.
And has put this Republican Party in a place where it really has nothing to stand for.
This is thank you for saying that, and I think this is, Jake, I think such an important astute asymmetry, right? So on the left side, right, as Pelosi and Congresswoman Jayapal are going back and forth, right, there are lots of substantive things those members want. We want a big infrastructure.
As they're going back and forth, like completely misleading, as if there was a back and forth. They lost every time.
Investment in green energy. Okay, so if you say, well, it started as $1 trillion, now it's down to $500 billion, you can say, well, that's half a loaf, and we really care about getting that money out the door. We really care because it's important for what we believe in. I'm not sure what those things are for the Paul Gosars, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Matt Gaetzes. It's like, they're going to, in their own weird way, because of that kind of nihilism, because of that party of no, Jake, it seems like they actually wield more leverage, because I don't even know what the thing they want to do is in a sub.
Wow, he's using nihilism too. He's using that too. You see that? That's amazing. The professional management class.
They got it from the Democrats.
Yes.
I actually thought they made that one up on their own, being innovative, but no, they got it from the Democrat Party establishment.
Of course.
Incredible.
Of course.
Incredible.
Yeah, I think that's right. The Congresswoman will not be surprised. I disagree with her on a little bit of what she said, and here's why. This Republican majority is not only built in the conservative districts in America, it's built in blue states where Republicans won a bunch of seats in New York and in other places around the country that Republicans are not really accustomed to having seats in. So I do agree on the core of the argument that the conservatives have more leverage perhaps than not even than they used to in the past, but they do have a lot of leverage. But it's going to be a push and pull between the conservatives and the moderates in this conference. I think in a way that we've never seen before. Remember, when Paul Ryan was elected speaker in 2015, I believe he had 247 people in his conference,
wow,
most of whom were pretty conservative. I don't think we're going to get majorities that size anymore, but that's besides the point. I just think that everyone is a kingmaker here. And I know the Congresswoman had to deal a lot with Joe Manchin and people like that earlier in this Congress. I think that that's something that Kevin McCarthy is going to have to deal with in 2023 and 2024 is the Mike Lawlers, who just knocked off the DCCC chair in New York, and then also the Marjorie Taylor Greens. But at the
let me fast forward to Jayapal's last comment here.
I want to emphasize something he said during his speech. He said that with the small majority, that these any Republican can be a kingmaker. That is what he said. Remember when Jimmy Dore was attacked for saying the same thing? Saying that if we force the vote and we can have a squad where anyone's a kingmaker at any given time, instead of Joe Manchin, it would have been us if they were serious. Hell, God, and I'm kind of thinking this out loud because I'm thinking about this right now. I think I made this point a long time ago. I think Manchin would have been reined in. Like, this is more theory, but Manchin was as crazy as he was because there was no left flank. So imagine if there was a left flank, and I'm trying to explain my thought process here. If there was a left flank that shifted the Overton window to the left, Manchin's demand wouldn't be so far to the right. So he will have to give some more. The fact that there's no left push allows Manchin to go further to the right. I gotta work on that.
Right. It's like I get what you're saying. It's like a tug of rope. If somebody's tugging and the other side is not tugging, you're gonna go completely to the other side. If there's no resistance on the other side of the rope and they tug of war. So Joe
Manchin probably would be more likely to, I think a better way to put it, Joe Manchin would have been more likely to concede to the Biden agenda if there was the fear of the progressive agenda. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yes. I gotta work on that theory, but I think you guys get my point. Go ahead.
The meshing or the negotiation is between center and far right instead of far right and far left. I get what you're saying. So by that, I get what you're saying. So, but let's continue the video. Let's see what she says. Can't really see where it's at. Hang on a second. That's what I thought.
While you work on that, I'll pull up a few super chats. Go
ahead. Do that.
Because we're gonna. I just said we will read the super chats. We didn't forget about you guys. So if you have any,
we saved them. Yeah.
If you have any chat that you want to leave it now because we're gonna read super chats here very soon. We appreciate all the support. So I see you got the video. I'm gonna read the super chat and then I'll pass it to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the 1999. Really appreciate and respect all that you do at RB. And I appreciate you guys for listening. I'm glad that we can shift the Overton window to the left, even in a small degree. Like we didn't have like these dreams of grandeur like TYT had that caused them to sell out. When I got to independent media, guys, I told myself I didn't think I would have a successful channel. It was almost impossible. That I told myself if I go into independent media and I inspire anyone to get into mutual aid, if I inspire anyone to vote third party, that's a win. Now think about how many people we motivate to vote third party, engage in mutual aid. So that's why I take a lot of pride in our work. I'm glad that you guys support us because I want to continue to do that. Like where our being is, I'm not content, but it does blow my expectations away. Because if I can get anyone engaged in revolutionary disciplined thinking, that's a win. So I appreciate you guys. But go ahead, let's go back to the video and we get back to the super chat.
Yeah. It's very short. We're winding down the segment and the stream, so let's listen to more of Jayapal.
Up to that point, I think it's an important point that there will be, I don't know, there's going to be 7, 8, 9 members in Biden districts, some, Biden plus 7, Biden plus 8, those New York members who are going to want to be reelected, right? So things like, I think, impeaching Joe Biden out of the gate is probably not your smartest vote,
Why? They won. Why would they have to negotiate like that? They just won in a blue district.
Like a month after you got to Congress. But then there's a question of what you deliver. I mean, the big question to me, Congresswoman, is the debt ceiling, the fear of sort of shutdowns, destruction as being in the kind of political interest of that caucus.
I wonder if this is all about the debt ceiling. Because they know the Freedom Caucus, they about to shut. They don't give a fuck because they know, right? And I wonder if that's why they're doing this. I know they're doing it to shield the squad because they didn't do anything, but I wonder if that's another reason for the segment.
Caucus as a whole, particularly with Donald Trump urging them on.
Well, yes. And I would just say, in response to Jake, I mean, I think that the thing is not that there's push and pull between the conservative part of the Republican Party and the moderate part, but the fact that the country has already rejected MAGA extremism. And you do have the possibility of these MAGA extremists really being able to control everything on the agenda. The only way that Kevin McCarthy is going to get to 218 votes is if he convinces a lot of those people to go along with him. And so he's going to owe people things. And what I will tell you is, let me just say, there is not since 1934 has the president's party actually been able to keep every state legislature in the country, much less flip a couple of legislatures, right? We have the first time in a very...
So this is where I have to say something, because it wasn't because of your policies. It's because of your lies. The IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act lie, the pardoning of marijuana people, that lie you try to exactly. Project. The student loan forgiveness program that was set up to fail. So to boast about tricking people,
exactly,
into voting for your ass is not a good thing. Go ahead, Nick.
So I'll explain this on my call-in show. Isn't it incredible that the Democrats are celebrating the midterm elections? Think about it. So what Pramila Jayapal just said, and you will hear this from corporate media all the time. They will say, well, there is an historical trend of when one party come into power, the next midterm, they lose power. They talk about this as if it's a random force of nature, something that cannot be controlled, something that has been, always will be, and always has been, always will be, and will continue to be. No, guys, why do you think about it, why do you think after the party win the presidency, they lose the House and the Senate, the midterm afterwards? They talk about this in corporate media like, oh, it's a given. They lose those seats because the president promised things he did not deliver on, and that destroyed turnout, which leads the other party to winning. Think back to 2008. Obama promised the world to young people. He didn't deliver. And then in 2010, he got wiped out.
So this is why they can predict it historically with such accuracy, because they know they're accurately not going to do shit.
Yes, CJ.
That's why they can do that. Go ahead, Nick.
And you understand the point I'm making. Because they just talk about this as, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Once we get in government, we will lose seats. No, that's because you guys failed. You guys failed to deliver on the mandate that the people give you. And that happens every election. In 2016, Trump disappointed a lot. Remember the former Obama voter that then voted for Trump? Yes. They voted for Trump thinking that he was going to change shit. And then they saw him get in bed with Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and the worst swamp monsters. What's the education? I keep forgetting the education secretary name.
Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, Betsy DeVos.
Yeah.
And once again, we all know that MAGA had like a hardcore cultist, But there was Obama to Trump voters who probably thought he was different. Then they saw him butter up to Wall Street. They saw him butter up and betray all his campaign promises. And then in 2018, they didn't show up. Hit the blue wave. Guys, these things that they pretend is an accident, is a trend that happens because you fail to deliver. So Joe Biden took office and he lost the Senate. You guys lost House seats. How is that something to celebrate if you're serious? Now, we know why they celebrate. They celebrate because they're not serious. They celebrate if they trick anybody to vote for them, it's good for them. But I'm asking this question for the people who believe the Democrats want to win. Why would they celebrate losing House seats and losing Senate? Yes, they overperform historical precedent, but that historical precedent has been set because you guys disappointed people, which you guys did as well. So Pramila Jayapal is bragging about the fact that you guys lost support. Do you guys see what I'm saying in a long-winded way here?
That's crazy.
I'll pass it to you.
But personally, she's probably happy because people aren't going to keep pressuring her. What the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you forcing to vote on this? Why aren't you fucking? So she's personally probably happy in her leadership position as progressive. Now they're going to be able to project. Now they're going to be able to really virtue signal, Nick. Yeah. Now they're going to be saying all kind of type like Malcolm X type shit because now Kevin McCarthy's and they know what they're saying is never going to happen. So what you see Marjorie Taylor Greene doing, you're going to start seeing them do what we saw them do during the Trump administration that fooled so many people. I like this comment here. Student loan forgiveness was the $2,000 checks of 2022. That's a great comment.
I got a receipt for you that's relevant to the segment whenever you're done with the video. Regarding
let me just see how much she says. I don't know what else she said. Let me just see. I might cut it here.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Very long time, the governor and both senators from Arizona as Democrats. We have in Pennsylvania recovered space from tough frontline districts that used to be Republican. We captured Washington 3 in Southwest Washington with Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. We have a phenomenal class of progressives that are coming in. All of that to say, Chris, that I think the country is grappling with what is this extreme MAGA Republican agenda, and Kevin McCarthy is going to end up having to play to that agenda. It will be a really important contrast for Democrats as we go into 2024.
It'll be a very important contrast to show what politicians can do with their leverage if they choose to do so. Now, why they're doing it, meaning their goals and their policies, I don't agree with, but the tactics is something that the left should want. And I think they don't do it because, like you said, this is a dance.
Yep.
They're just playing a role. They're playing the helpless person the helpless humanitarian that just can never seem to win. It's always like, like that Hollywood is barely out of reach.
and I promise you guys, once you see it, you can't unsee it. The second I realized that this red-blue game was a dance after the 2012 election, I was done. I can't. Every maneuver they make, I see the dance. I see the dance moves. You can't unsee it. Now, I'm going to show you this receipt because this is actually related to the story. I tweeted about this earlier. Look at the professional losers. Gaslighting and lying to their base. Just as Democrats are not lying to Trump supporters. They're not gaslighting Trump supporters. They're not stealing and grifting our Trump supporters. They are lying to you. Are we clear? They are propagandizing you, not MAGA. This goes for just Democrats. And more specifically, for Shinny, one of the biggest sellouts in modern politics. I stated this. She's the director of the Sunrise movement.
Yeah, no, I can't believe that.
It's embarrassing to say this, but the first organization I ever volunteered with was Casey Sunrise, which is the biggest sellout group I have ever seen. They straight up went full.
I've never seen it like that.
I ain't never seen any group unapologetically sell out the way the Sunrise did, like unapologetically. And I remember I used to go to the meetings, and there was people that was farther to my left, and I'm sure that a lot of these people who are legitimate been left the organization. I remember it was like 4 years ago. I organized for the very first time. I was at Sunrise. There was like this Marxist, there was this communist, and there was talking about how climate needed to be a class war. They went from that to full-fledged Democratic Party apologists. And now that I look at the evidence, I was misled, and the Marxists I knew were misled. I'd be very surprised they're still there, because I thought we was doing some radical shit, but we was not. I talk a lot of shit, but guys, I laugh at myself all the time. That was a big L on my behalf, supporting the Sunrise Movement. But anyway, let's get back to the tweet. I don't know what the fuck is happening with my mouse. Here it is. So let me read the tweet. Different Justice Democrats that was written by the Sunrise Movement leader, but this is what the Justice Democrats is promoting. Young people were not excited to vote months ago, but the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act and the Biden administration plan to cancel student loan debt led to game-changing turnout. The Justice Democrats is promoting a blatant lie here. Or they lying by omission, because they're not bringing up the fact that they got canned, and Savvy reported that this was always the plan. So if you guys think the Justice Democrats is a legitimate organization, if there was a legitimate organization, they would be spending their time educating people how the Biden administration screwed you and how they planned on student loan to fail. But they are gaslighting you, not Trump supporters, not neoliberals. They are gaslighting these young people who are 100% serious. Because, and I want to emphasize this, guys. The Sunrise Movement has sold out. DSA has sold out, but there are a lot of young people. And when you go to, I know I've been around these people. They mean well. They are being misled by misleadership. So we got to give these people grace.
Yeah.
And so don't bash every person you see that's part of DSA. Don't bash every person that you see. Because I promise you guys, these people in Sunrise that I met are legit. They're being misled by these people. And also, the Sunrise Movement has endorsed and continued to campaign for the Democratic Party after they unapologetically come out as pro-fracking. Biden is funding military to historic levels. And once again, to show you guys the difference between local activists and leadership, I remember being in Casey's Sunrise meetings, we used to talk about how the military-industrial complex is responsible for climate change. They went from that to uncritically endorsing the Democratic Party. So do you guys see how things like this, seeing the Bernie Sanders campaign all sell out? I saw the Sunrise Movement sell out. I see all these people sell out. Now you guys see why I'm preaching revolutionary discipline. I used to be a social democrat. I used to be more of a democratic socialist. Then I'm like, why are we filled with losers? So I started reading theory. I read Black Panther Marxist theory. I listened to why they explain why they are Marxists. So then I'm like, oh shit. That's when I came to the realization that the social democrat is a failed ideology and a failed movement. So I cut myself off there because I don't want to explain my whole biography, but it's through seeing these betrayals that would lead me to start preaching revolutionary discipline. That's when I started reading theory more. I started like, we can't allow our movement to be run on just vibes. The Sunrise Movement is literally a just vibes movement. If there's a Democratic Party politician that says he cares about climate change, don't care about his votes, don't care about his positions. He say he cares about climate change, though. It's unbelievable. That's why I'm glad that we're able to have a position where we can preach revolutionary discipline, because the U.S. left is beyond a joke.